Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Why, hello there, and welcome to another Welch review, starring Mr. Stefan and Sam, the Welch brothers. Who would have thunk it?
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, today we're talking about Kong Skull Island, which, again, is another departure from our regular schedule of new stuff, but we're getting prepped for Kong, for Godzilla vs. Kong, and, yeah, we wanted to give you the rundown. On
As you can tell, we already have a prediction here, right? As Godzilla has Kong in his clutches. Right, now don't scratch that, okay? Pay decent money for that. Anyway, so in Kong Skull Island... In Kong Skull Island, we have John Goodman as Bill Randa, Samuel L. Jackson,
the man.
Oh, it's so cool seeing him in this as Colonel Preston Packard, right? That alliteration, Preston Packard.
Preston PP.
We have Tom Hiddleston, who everyone knows as Loki, as James Conrad. We have Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Well, she's not Captain Marvel in this, but she previously played Captain Marvel.
That's Captain Marvel?
Yeah, and
Oh,
she plays a photojournalist known as Mason Weaver in this. We have John C. Reilly, right, from Step Brothers.
Yep.
He is playing Hank Marlowe.
Yeah, and he's a lot older than he was in Step Brothers.
Yeah, he's really good.
It's been like 20 years since Step... Oh my god!
Now this part's cool, right? So Corey Hawkins in this movie, right, plays the character Houston Brooks. Now, we previously heard Houston Brooks' name before because that character is played by an actor known as Joe Morton in Godzilla King of the Monsters, right? So Corey Hawkins is playing a younger version of that character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Kong Skull Island takes place in the 70s, right? Toward the end of the Vietnam War.
That's smart.
Right? And that's just pretty cool that they continued with that character. So hopefully we see more of Houston Brooks in future Kong and Godzilla projects. We also, in this movie, have John Ortiz as Victor Nieves. John Ortiz was in the Silver Linings Playbook. He played Bradley Cooper's best friend, who is married to Julia Stiles. He was the one who was like, I got the baby, and I do the remodeling, and sometimes I just want to listen to metal. Like, yeah. All right. He was also, I think, a bad guy in Fast and Furious 4. So
he's not what you expect as a bad guy.
No,
in the Fast and Furious movie.
But he, he's been around, so it's cool seeing him in big budget things. We have Tian Jing as Sam. We have Toby Cabell as Chapman, and he also did some of the motion capture work for Kong. He previously did motion capture work and the few vocals of Koba from Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Ape.
So I like that he's doing this whole monkey thing where he's a monkey in both movies.
Yeah, man.
And then we have Jason Mitchell as Mills, and this is cool because between the Godzilla Kong franchise, they have the main cast from Straight Outta Compton in this.
Really?
Yeah, Corey Hawkins, right, played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. Jason Mitchell played Eazy-E, and then O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube Jr. played Ice Cube.
I mean, that just makes sense.
It just makes sense. It's basic science. So I like that this crew kind of just like, our next movies are going to be giant dinosaur and monkey film.
Yeah.
Which is cool. We also have Shea Wigham as Cole. Now, he also was in the Silver Linings Playbook.
Wigham?
Yeah, Wigham.
Okay.
Or Wigham. I don't know. If you syllabicate it, it's Wigham.
That's how syllabication works.
That's how it is. A two-syllable last name. So anyway, Shea Wigham played Bradley Cooper's older brother in the Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
In Cop Car, he also played the strange man who was in a trunk.
I don't remember Cop Car.
Remember the two kids steal a cop car going joyrides?
Oh, yeah,
He played the dude in the trunk who wanted to kill Kevin Bacon.
Perfect.
He's also cast to play the next bad guy, I think, in Mission Impossible, what are they on? 7 and 8 now? Or 8 and 9? Something like that.
Who even cares?
But anyway, Shea Wigham, man, is an underrated actor, and it's nice to see him, being in more things, right? Getting into bigger stuff. He was also in Brooklyn vs. Vampires.
Okay.
He played, the familiar of the vampires.
Okay, yeah.
So it's nice to see him doing more stuff. We also have Thomas Mann as Slivko. And Thomas Mann was in Project X. He played the Cub.
He was also one of your teachers at UMass Dartmouth. Look at that.
No, that's Lucas Mann.
Oh, Lucas Mann, the less famous man.
Equally cool dude. Is also a very good writer. You should check out his books. But anyway, Thomas Mann was in Project X. He played, I think, Thomas Cub. I don't know his first name, but he was the main character in Project X.
Okay.
And then you have Eugene Cordero as Reles. And Eugene Cordero was previously in The Kings of Summer. He played the dude's, like one of the kid's sister's boyfriends. He was the boyfriend who talked about eating soup. he's that dude.
I gotta watch.
And then we have Mark Evan Jackson as Landsat Steve. And Mark Evan Johnson has done a lot of comedies. What they are off the top of my head, I don't know. But he's like someone who's always in the background.
Okay.
And then we also have Richard Jenkins, who's also from Step Brothers. He played the dad.
All right.
Right. He played John C. Reilly's father in Step Brothers.
Dang.
So, but Richard Jenkins is like very underrated.
He plays the senator in this, right?
Yeah, he plays the senator. Richard Jenkins was in Let Me In. He was the older guy.
Yeah, he was the old familiar, and then he dies.
Yep. And then we also have Robert Taylor, which is Longmire. He plays like the boat captain, like the boat that brings them to Skull Island. He has maybe like 3 lines of dialogue, but he was like, I want to be in a monkey movie. I solve crime in the desert. I want to be in a monkey movie. So, Robert Taylor from Longmire. And then this is cool. Thomas Middleditch, right? The guy who played Sam Coleman in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
He provides the voice of an off-screen character, Jerry, who I think offers Brie Larson's character the photo job to go to Skull Island.
All right.
And
he was doing that from Verizon, right? Can you hear me now? Well, that wasn't his line, but.
And then the other cool things, right? So, as I mentioned, Eugene Cordero is from The Kings of Summer. Kong Skull Island is directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who directed and wrote Kings of Summer. But he also had 2 other stars from Kings of Summer have small guest appearances, like when they go to the bar to recruit Loki, right, to be their tracker.
Yeah.
Some of the bar.
Wait, that's Loki?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the guys in the bar are Moises Ares, right? The guy who I forget.
I am Biagio. Where is Biagio? Or something like that.
And then you had Nick Robinson, who was like the main kid.
Yeah.
He was also in the bar.
Yeah, I love Biagio.
Biagio's great. We'll probably have to do Kings of Summer at some point.
Biagio's so great.
But now this film, right, is definitely a different retelling of the original King Kong lore.
Yeah.
Right? So it's based on characters created by Marion C. Cooper and Edgar Wallace. Right? And the story was by John Gatness. And the screenplay had a lot of different people contributing to it. You had Dan Gilroy, who previously wrote and directed Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And the Netflix film Velvet Buzzsaw, which is about art coming to life and attacking people.
I want to see that. That sounds amazing.
And then you have an alum from Godzilla King of the Monsters. You have Max Bornstein, right?
Yeah.
He contributed to it as well. He had a story credit on King of the Monsters.
That's cool.
So you have someone who previously worked with Godzilla, now working with Kong. And then you had Derek Connolly. Now, Derek Connolly wrote some of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Okay,
like
so he's like well-versed in monkey lore.
Oh, and dinosaurs, because he also did Jurassic World and Jurassic World 2 Fallen Kingdom.
Those are okay.
Well, alright. Hit or miss. And then, as I said, it's directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who previously, his only big film is The Kings of Summer. So it's a drastic jump from Kids in the Woods to army soldiers, monkeys, and other crazy
No
monsters.
longer are we in the woods, we're in the jungle, baby.
We're in the jungle, baby.
We're in the jungle.
So...
Please, I want to watch you. All right, go ahead.
That was beautiful.
Thank
you should
you.
sing more on this show. So, as I said, it's a retelling, so it no longer takes place in the 30s, right? Now, obviously, Marion C. Cooper's film takes place in the 30s because it was made in the 30s.
Yeah.
Right? Peter Jackson did a remake of King Kong, which was more of a direct remake with some, subtle add-ons to it. And so his version also takes place in the 30s. Now, Jordan Vogt-Roberts' take on Kong, while Kong may predate, obviously the time period is the 70s toward the end of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Right? And in a lot of ways, this film kind of has elements of like, God, what's the name of that movie? Apocalypse Now, in some ways.
All right. I haven't seen Apocalypse Now, to be honest, which is kind of like probably a sin.
We'll catch it. We'll watch it. But anyway, so that's a rundown on who's who and where you may have seen them and some of their background.
Yeah. So, all right. So as far as plot goes, the plot actually starts around World War II with some island hoppers, and one of them being a character that we have later on. And basically, they're trying to murder each other. One's Japanese, one's American, and then they see Kong, and they're like, "What if we're just friends and we don't get killed by a big monkey?" Then it immediately jumps into the future. You have early Monarch. People aren't really aware that giant monsters exist, right? Mm-hmm. The government is a little iffy on whether or not they still believe in giant monsters, even though, they still made Monarch for some reason. And you have, I can't remember the guy's name.
John Goodman.
Bill Randa. Who's the character's name, right? You got Bill Randa, played by John Goodman, going to ask a senator for some extra funds.
Richard Jenkins.
To ask for some extra funds and some help getting to Skull Island, where they had kind of just discovered it. Sailors always kind of knew not to go there, but satellite imaging just becomes a thing that's possible. And they have a satellite picture of Skull Island. They're like, we're going there. We think that there's something big there. The senator is a bit begrudging about it, but he ultimately gives them the funds and what they need to, make this journey.
Because nothing says we're going there like the Reds might get there before us.
Exactly. He's like, what if the Russians find it first, huh? What do you think about that? And then they're like, dang it. Hate me some Russians.
You can't let the commies get Skull Island.
Can't let those. You got it. Can't let the commies. So, anyways,
imagine that though. Skull Island's taken over by communists.
Exactly. What would we do? What would we do? Nobody knows. Anyway, so they're out and about. They need a tracker, so they're in Vietnam, and they go and talk to Loki.
Store's not available. I guess we'll take you.
Yeah, Store's still in Australia. So yeah, they get Loki instead.
That's awesome.
Thank you. He obviously doesn't play Loki in this movie. He plays like ex-British Special Forces, and he's done with the Vietnam War, and he's just like camping out in Vietnam. I don't know, hitting on people in bars, being British.
Again with the British, right? Yeah, just being a suave, drunk British man.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, we'll pay you a lot of money if you help us explore this island. He's like, I like money. So they go down and, he hops on the boat with them. They go over to Skull Island. They also bring a war photographer, an anti-war photographer with them to document the trip. So the first thing that you need to know about Skull Island is that for some reason there's always a storm outside of Skull Island. They don't explain why, but there is. So they bring a military detail to help them get through and for protection purposes. And basically they just go through on choppers, helicopters, through this storm to get to the other side. No, I'm just kidding. To get to Skull Island, sorry. To get to Skull Island. And when they do, their first plan is to bomb the surface of the island to see if the ground is hollow, because they're going to measure the reverberations. So you get this montage of Vietnam, I guess ex-Vietnam soldiers, because Vietnam had just ended in the storyline, bombing Skull Island, and then a giant gorilla throws a tree through the helicopter.
The best line was when that guy at the Chapman goes, Is that a monkey?
Yeah. So one of the helicopters gets like nuked with a tree, and then one of the characters like, "Is that a monkey?" Because it's just a giant, bipedal gorilla. Godzilla proceeds to beat the living hell out of helicopters for like the next 10, 20 minutes.
King Kong.
Did I say Godzilla?
See, it's already determined that's who's going to win.
He's going to win. King Kong, who is not yet a fully grown giant monkey, destroys a bunch of helicopters, either using trees or his fists. He finds out that metal hurts as well. Some of the detail escapes, right? Some of the military escort detail escapes, but they are split up. So you have our scientists in one group, you have your military escort in another group, or at least a majority of them in another group. Our scientists and some of the military detail quickly find some of the locals there on Skull Island, and among them we have the dude from Step Brothers,
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly, who is the American who crashed on World War II during the island hopping. So he had crashed there. His Japanese friend died recently, but he still has his katana, so that's kind of cool. Also, John C. Reilly at this point is kind of nuts, right? He's been on this island with a bunch of indigenous people who don't actually speak. They just look at you, and you have to infer what they mean by those looks. They also apparently don't age, or at least some of them don't age. So they're talking to John C. Reilly, and they're like, "Hey, how do we get off of here?" He's like, "Well, you don't." And they're like, "Well, we have a boat that's going to take us off if you want to join up, but it's on the other side of the island." He's like, "You can't get to the other side of the island in that amount of time." But he has a secret plane boat that he's been building. And when I say plane boat, I don't mean a plane that goes on water. I mean a plane that they turned into a boat.
They did some MacGyver-esque stuff.
Yeah. And they begin to take that upriver. At the same time, the military detail is trying to find any of the lost soldiers, right? Any of the soldiers who are still alive, who are just kind of out in the wilderness. Now, what we begin to see is that not only is Kong giant, there are other giant animals. So, like, there's a big yak. There's some really big insects. Yeah, there's a big yak. There's some other big insects that are not friendly. And they like murder some of the military escort. But additionally, those aren't like the big problems. Additionally, there's these giant two-legged with a tail monsters that were inspired by Cubone from Pokemon, except if they were evil, that live on Skull Island. They live underground beneath Skull Island, and the bombs woke them up. And it's King Kong who has been fighting off these monsters for like the last 100 years or so, because his parents got murdered by them. So King Kong fights these monsters. You get a couple of montages of that, but it also shows that they're more than happy to eat humans. So that's going to be an issue for us going forward. Now, skipping a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of the big climactic battles wind up happening in between these monsters and King Kong, as our main characters try to get together all of the members of their escort and all of the scientists, and make their way to the north side of the island within 3 days, so that they can escape, right, without being left behind by the ship that took them there originally. So that's realistically about as much of the plot as is okay to tell you, without giving too much of the story away. The rest is kind of like the meat and potatoes, but kind of in that same ilk with Godzilla King of the Monsters. What do you think about the monsters in this giant monster movie, this kaiju film?
I think some of the insect stuff, like the spider sequence, I thought that was cool, right?
Yeah.
Like there's subtle twists on original parts of the King Kong lore, right? Like the insect pit that Peter Jackson did originally, right? Apparently that was cut out of the original King Kong, right?
Oh, wow.
So, he tried to remake it for his movie, and clearly Vogt-Roberts did something along the lines, right? Right, so he had a giant spider. I think the scene with, like, that wood bug, that was kind of stupid.
Oh, the one where the dude's sitting on it and then it just, like, screams at him and runs away?
Right, I think that part was a little dumb, but we can get into that more later. So I think, like, the giant spider thing, I thought that was cool. I think Kong, they're definitely going for a different feel, whereas, like, Peter Jackson's Kong was, like, literally just a giant gorilla.
Yeah, big gorilla boy.
Right? This one's, like, a giant bipedal, gorilla thing. I think you said when we watched it, he has, like, more in common with, like, an early
humans.
human.
Like, he's like a big hominid.
Yeah. That's probably.
Yeah.
I have to look at a picture of a hominid, but I take your word for it.
It's just a furry person on two legs with opposable thumbs.
Yeah. That's what Kong really seems to be in this flick, which isn't bad. They do a good job, and clearly they're sizing him up because they reference Skull Island in King of the Monsters, so they're hyping at what we're about to see in March.
Yeah,
right? The two come together, so they had to do something, to make them to scale. I think one of the big takeaways was the skull crawlers. I think that was a really cool design. I also think it's cool because the original idea for King Kong was to just airdrop some gorillas on Komodo Island and film them fight Komodo dragons. But Ipo was like, no,
yeah,
you
that's
can't
probably
do
wrong.
that. So maybe this is as close as we get to him fight a monkey fighting Komodo dragons.
No, that's gonna be the Godzilla movie.
Well, I'm saying monkey versus a Komodo, a lizard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Godzilla's a separate thing. But those things are real lizard. I like the attention to detail in their face. I think viewing it, this most recent time, I didn't realize they have a skull on the top of their jaw.
Yeah.
It has eye holes, but then their eyes are their actual eyes are on the side.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I think those lizard bat-like things.
Those are cool.
Those were cool.
Yeah.
I think there was some missed opportunities to do some other cool things here. I think they definitely focused more on the humans than they did the monsters in this movie.
I think that's true. I think that Alright, so as far as monsters go, I thought the skull crawlers were okay. I didn't think that they were that amazing. I definitely think that there were some big distinctions here between Peter Jackson's King Kong, or traditional King Kong, right? Who, climbs the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
And this one that's, probably over half the size of the Empire State Building.
Right.
So there's some dramatic departures from, OG King Kong. And just all of the other iterations of King Kong.
Right now,
really.
he's not king, though. He's just Kong.
Yeah, he's king on Skull Island.
That's true.
So anyways.
So wait, why were the skull crawlers just okay?
I just think that they're kind of dumb. Not they're cool looking, right? They are cool looking. But they have two legs. Not Godzilla. King Kong has opposable thumbs on his hands and his feet. That is not a good recipe in a fight. You know what I mean? If you were gonna fight a dog with two legs, don't get me wrong, the dog can still bite you, but I like my odds.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially if I had fists on my feet as well.
I hear you.
That dog has two paws, but I have four fists.
So if the skull crawlers had 4 legs, would they be slightly more impressive?
I think that they'd be more intimidating. I mean, in an actual fight, I think that what they went for is a scarier look, right?
Yeah.
Because their whole thing is that they look gross on sight, and you're supposed to not like them based off of what they look like, right? Which they do well, but I don't think that in an actual fight, Kong would struggle much with most of them, and he doesn't.
Right.
And I guess that kind of makes sense. But even with the big one, I'd still put my betting odds on King Kong, and they say in the movie that like one big one from these guys murdered both of King Kong's fully grown adult giant gorilla parents, and King Kong is just one adolescent or teenage giant gorilla. So like
I got you.
It don't match up. There's a few other things in this film, like a big piece about King Kong is that connection between King Kong and like
the human.
And the girl,
Anne,
right?
Yeah.
With Anne, and that slightly exists here, but it's very much like sidelined, right? That's not the main focus.
No.
I think that what's different from the other King Kongs and this one, that the other King Kongs are adventure movies, right? This is squarely a monster flick, which isn't bad. I think that it's good at what it does. But I also think that it also might lean into comedy like a lot, right?
I see what you're saying,
like,
yeah.
Godzilla has a tone that's like, oh no, he's gonna murder a city. Whereas King Kong in this movie has a tone that's like, hey, look, I've been on an island for 40 years and I don't know how things work anymore. You know, so it's like, it's good. It's a very different tone from the other monster movies that Warner Brothers is putting out. And it's an extremely different tone from the other King Kong movies that have existed in the past. So yeah, what did you think about the acting? You said that there's more acting in this than like the Godzilla film.
No, I would agree. There's a lot of focus, definitely on interactions between the soldiers. Right, I thought that was really good. I also find it interesting that I want to call him Loki, but Tom Hiddleston's character, like he was billed so high, you know, like on the cast sheet.
Yeah.
But like, he doesn't even say like half the dialogue. You know what I mean?
He's like one of those silent heroes.
Right. Like there's more dialogue between like Shea Wiggum and Jason Mitchell and John Goodman and Corey Hawkins. You know what I mean? Like all of those guys have way more dialogue. You know, like you're just silent.
Yeah.
You know, I think some of the standouts for me in terms of acting were Samuel L. Jackson. Right. I think it's nice seeing him. Not that I like him as a villain, right? Because I want to root for Sam Jackson, but I liked him in this role of Packard, right? Like a scorned colonel, right? Yeah. Who's like, I'm not leaving until my men are avenged, right? Like he has a line where it's like, it's time to show Kong that man is king, right? And he gets like, you know, powerful, and you see it in his eyes, like he's not leaving until Kong's dead. Yeah. You know, like I like that, and how madness has kind of captured him, right? Even when he knows, right? Like they all died, right? Yeah. Like, you know, I do think some of the plot is a little dumb, right? Like, you know, I understand why Chapman's so important. Like, I get No Man Left Behind, but like they didn't do anything with that character to make the audience care about him.
Yeah. They're like, oh, he has a son.
Right.
Nothing else.
So, I mean, I guess that's important, but it's like there's not a lot of investment in why to care about Chapman. I think Shea Wiggum did a really good job as Cole. I know you mentioned humor, right? In a lot of ways, this film kind of reminded me of a Marvel film, where it's like, oh, destruction, action, but then like, oh wait, let's swoop into some comedy.
Yeah,
you know,
I think one of my issues with this movie with acting is that the characters are all very one note, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of development, whereas Peter Jackson's movie, right, the main character was Jack Black, but there's character development in a lot of the cast. For example, the dude with the big nose, Adrian Brody goes from somebody who very much just doesn't want to be there to somebody who finds love, right?
Yep.
But he's also kind of a coward, to somebody who becomes galvanized by his love to go and overcome insurmountable odds. And at the same time, the female character, somebody who is Anne Darrow, she doesn't want to really she does want to go on this journey, right? But then she immediately gets captured and is terrified. Mm-hmm. And then she eventually comes to find that this big monkey is, a protector and is gentle and is just lonely, right? And then she eventually winds up caring about him more than like a lot of the people in New York City. And I guess what I'm saying is like there's so much character development in Peter Jackson's King Kong, right? Like the characters go through full arcs. In this one, Sam Jackson is mad because they lost Vietnam, and then that just continues on to him being like, hey, we lost Vietnam, but we're not going to lose against a monkey.
We lost Vietnam, but I'm not losing to a monkey.
Exactly.
So you're right, but I would still argue...
He does it well.
Yes.
All that I'm saying is that the characters are one note,
You're right.
Like,
Brie Larson has no point being there.
yeah.
Neither does Tom Hiddleston.
Who's the guy who did the seismic charges?
Corey Hawkins?
Yeah, sure.
The guy who plays Houston Brooks?
Yeah.
Him and John Goodman are the two monarch scientists.
He has like no talking lines after he explains the seismic charges. He's like, this is my one thing. And that's it. It's like seismic charges off Skull Island. Those are his two motivations in the entire film. So, yeah, a very one-note plot, which is fine, because again, it's a monster movie. This one isn't a romantic drama like the Peter Jackson story was.
Or even the original one.
Or even the originals.
Yeah.
As savagely racist as those ones were. Look at all these tribe people that worship a giant monkey. Like,
I see what you're saying. It's definitely they're dated.
Well, I mean the originals, yeah. The new ones are just Peter Jackson's just based off of the others. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about those.
It would also, I mean, okay. So that being said, right? John C. Reilly, I think, definitely helped steal the show. I would say John C. Reilly, Shea Wiggum, Jason Mitchell, and Sam Jackson, those four really are the heart and soul of the film.
Yeah, so like those actors did a good job playing the roles that they had.
Yeah.
And they made them like, everything that you'd expect from their roles, but they never evolved.
No.
In the film, not a single one of them did.
But they shine more than the rest. Like, the rest of them are, like, just asleep through it. Like, Brie Larson is just like, I showed up, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tom Hiddleston, who can be a great actor, right? It's just like, I just talk in a British accent, I'm here.
Yeah, look at me, I shot a gun and I cut some birds with a katana. Isn't that cool?
I would argue even John Goodman does, like a different tone-wise, right? Like, he's typically a comedic actor.
Yeah.
You know, he's dipped his toe into some dramas and stuff, but, like, this, 10 Cloverfield Lane, like, these are different character types for him to play.
Not his wheelhouse.
So I'm not saying, like, they're not one note, but, like, they shine more than, like, everybody else. Yeah. So if without Goodman, Jackson, Shea Wiggum, John C. Reilly, Jason Mitchell, I don't know. The characters are dull.
Yeah. So again, this is another instance where I know you said that you thought that there was more acting.
Well, there's more like it's more focused on like the human storyline.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. But this is obviously still squarely a monster movie. Mm-hmm. You're here to watch Kong beat things with trees because he does that a lot in this one.
Well, I mean, toward the end,
I like it.
Yeah. Toward the end, he does it in that montage when they first show up, and like he lets them know who's boss.
Yeah, but even a lot of the time when the people are just traveling, they're getting attacked by random monsters. What this movie does, that's different from the way that Peter Jackson. Sorry to keep going back to Peter Jackson, but what's different?
He's a Marvel. Don't be sorry.
What's different from Peter Jackson's Kong is Peter Jackson's Kong does kill off people a lot. But what they do is they frequently are going back to the main cast, the ones who aren't going to die, to show their emotions and their experience with these deaths, right? For example, Jack Black's character, who is relatively one-note, right? He's trying to make money any way he can, is descending into madness, right? With each person who dies, he becomes more like ravenously alcoholic. He keeps saying that he's going to commit it to different people's families and donate the proceeds to their families. And he says that for like everyone who dies. But the point of showing all of these deaths is that it shows that it takes a toll on the main cast. In this movie, people die all the time. Nobody really gives a damn. Sam Jackson is the only person who's mad about it, and everybody else is like, it's Skull Island, it's a bad time.
So I guess then, like, in looking at it, right, Kong Skull Island, not a bad movie by any means, right? You want to see a giant monkey mess some stuff up, it's worth checking out. However, I would say this movie is not in the same playing field as Peter Jackson's King Kong. Like, you want to see King Kong, you watch Peter Jackson's King Kong. You want to just see a giant monkey slap some stuff, then you can just watch Skull Island.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're two dramatically different types of films. Like, Jackson's was nominated for Oscars. This one is just, popcorn chicanery.
Yeah, and it's still good. Like, it's still a fine film, but and I would actually say that the acting in this movie is better than in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Okay.
I don't think that movie had good acting, personally. But it's kind of like a low bar to hold yourself to, I guess. Another instance where it's like, if you want to watch a kaiju movie, a giant monster movie, this is a pretty good giant monster movie. If you want a big gorilla film with like more plot and like more substance, go and watch the Peter Jackson King Kong movie. You won't be disappointed. This one's still fine. Pick it up, check it out, especially because King Kong vs. Godzilla is coming out. That's what you should actually be excited for. So, this has been the Welch Review. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.